Good morning. It's Wednesday, December 11th in Altoona, Iowa. Today is my last day in Iowa until New Year's Eve. Yesterday was my one and only chance to capture Andrew Yang on film. He had 2 appearances and I caught them both. The first was a 3 o'clock bus tour opening at the Iowa State Capitol in Des Moines. I was concerned about it because the morning paper indicated Yang was going to meet with the editorial board of the Des Moines Register at 2 o'clock p.m. and the campaign appearance was scheduled for 3 o'clock p.m. But he had a second campaign appearance at 5 o'clock in Grinnell. So I thought the chances were that he would be more or less on time. I showed up at 2:45, had a lovely view of the Capitol, walked up to his bus and where he was to speak, saw a mild-sized crowd, and got very cold. Supposedly it was 21 degrees, but the wind was blowing, and I would say the wind chill was 0 or colder. After a time, I went back to my car and warmed up. When I got out again, there was a crowd gathered around the speaker's platform, so I walked back. And no Andrew Yang. There were preliminary speakers, and that was all. Eventually, to make a long story short, at 3:20 I went back to my car, started it up, and drove back to the hotel, intending to catch him at 5 o'clock in Grinnell. While there, I had asked one of the staffers, all of whom were young, whether there would be a large crowd in Grinnell. One woman said she didn't think so, she thought everything would be fine, but a young man who was there said that at every campaign office opening he has had so far, it's just been stuffed. He mentioned that in Council Bluffs, voters came from 3 or 4 neighboring states to hear Yang. Regardless, it was too cold to just wait any longer. He was already 20 minutes late, and I had no idea when he would show up. I left in time to get to the Grinnell office at 5 o'clock. I've learned not to get to these events early if you don't need to. Unfortunately, on this one, I did need to, because as you can see from the video, the small campaign office was stuffed, and there were people out on the sidewalk. I followed a mother and her 5-year-old around the back of the building and through an open door and ended up in a hallway, which was also full of people, but better there than nothing. So I stayed there and waited for Yang to show up. He was only about 10 minutes later, and that was perfectly acceptable. Bless his heart, he has good political instincts, and he spoke for only 7 minutes. We'd all been standing there for however long, probably many of them had been there more than a half an hour. And he said, as you'll hear from his speech, he had a choice of talking longer or talking shorter and giving everyone a selfie, and he figured everyone would want a selfie. So he stopped. I was grateful for that. I didn't want a selfie, or if I did want a selfie, it wasn't worth waiting in line to get it. And I began to walk back to my car. I happened to go by a barber shop still open at 5:30 in the afternoon, so I got a haircut in Grinnell, Iowa.
Everybody, what's our chant? When I say Iowa, you say vote Yang! Iowa!
Vote Yang!
Iowa!
Vote Yang!
When I say Iowa, you say vote Yang! Iowa!
Vote Yang!
Iowa!
Vote Yang!
Iowa!
Vote Yang!
When I say president, you say Yang! President!
Yang!
President!
Yang!
President!
Yang!
And just 3 hours ago, I became the 7th candidate to qualify for the So fun. I am very proud to be the lone candidate of color. That's what Now, how do we get there? We got there because of you all. We got there because of the people. Certainly the corporate media wasn't like, let's get you. Certainly it wasn't the corporate donors. We get 0 corporate PAC money. All of our energy and enthusiasm has been from people just like you all. That bus has a name of individual donors who donated to make that bus possible. We raised $10 million last quarter in increments of only $30 each. So our fans are almost as cheap as Bernie's, but we got a lot of them. And the question is, what are we going to do with your vote, your power here in Iowa? I love campaigning here in Iowa because you have the future of the country in your hands. I did the math. Do you know how many Californians each of you is worth? 1,000! That's right, 1,000 Californians each. Now, let's call it 120 of us here today. That's 3 football stadiums full of Californians. That's the power right here in this little office. That's why I'm here, that's why the other candidates are here, because you have the power to change the future of the country in your hands. I know many of you don't feel it, you're just living your lives, you're going to school, you're just doing what we all do. Occasionally you see a presidential candidate come through, but you're kind of used to it because you're Iowans. You're like, I guess I'll check this one out. But you and you alone have the power to actually flush our government pipes clean that right now are clogged with millions and millions of dollars of lobbyist cash. Right? Our government's been overrun by corporate money, and there's nothing that most of us can do about it. But you can do something about it. You can actually push us in a new direction, give us all a new way forward. And the question is, what are you going to do with that power? What is the new way forward?
Vote yay!
Vote yay!
If you're here tonight, at some point in the past number of days or weeks or months, you saw an advertisement or you heard that there's an Asian guy running for president who wants to give everyone $1,000 a month. Remember that first time you heard that? First time you heard that, you were like, haha, that's a gimmick. That will never happen. But this is not my idea, and it's not a new idea. Thomas Paine championed it at the founding of the country, called it the citizen dividend. Martin Luther King fought for it in the 1960s, called it the guaranteed minimum income for all Americans, not any subgroup, but all Americans. And I had the privilege of sitting down with Martin Luther King's son in Atlanta after the last debate, and he said, this is Dad's vision. And then I said what anyone would say. I was like, it's called Martin Luther King Dad. And then I thought, yeah, your name is Martin Luther King III, so that makes sense. You would call him Dad. So it was what he was fighting for in the 1960s when he was assassinated in 1968. And what I said to Martin Luther King III, I said, your dad's memory has been sanitized. Well, we celebrate his birthday every single year, but we don't talk about what he was actually fighting for. 1,000 economists endorsed this proposal in the 60s. It passed the U.S. House of Representatives twice in 1971. And 11 years later, one state actually passed a law where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that?
Alaska!
And how do they pay for it?
Oil!
And what is the oil of the 21st century?
Technology!
Data, technology, software, self-driving cars and trucks. How many of you saw the study that said that our data is now worth more than oil? How many of you got your data check in the mail?
No one!
Where do the data checks go?
Amazon!
Amazon, Facebook, Google, the trillion-dollar tech companies that are paying zero in taxes or near zero in taxes. Amazon alone is closing 30% of your stores and malls here in Iowa. Most common job in the state is retail clerk. 39-year-old woman making between $9 and $10 an hour. How much did Amazon pay in federal taxes last year? That's right, that is your math, Iowa. $20 billion out, 30% of your stores closed. They pay zero. But that is the magic of this place, is that you can change it. You can fix it. You didn't know that's what we were doing tonight. You didn't know that we were getting together to make sure Amazon pays their fair share in taxes. But that is what we're doing tonight. Yeah, we get our fair share of their hundreds of billions in revenue. We return it to you all. We build a trickle-up economy from our people, our families, and our communities up. Because the fundamental imbalance right now in America, corporate profits record highs, GDP record highs, all sort of record highs, and we all know this and feel it. Stress, student loan debt, anxiety, mental illness, even suicide, and drug overdoses, all at record highs. So we have a fundamental choice, Iowa. Are we going to keep choosing corporate profits, or are we going to choose our people?
People!
Humanity first!
Humanity first. We had the same choice 10 years ago. We had the financial crisis. Do you remember voting for the $4 trillion bailout of Wall Street?
No!
No, none of us voted for that. But it happened. They had a choice then. They had a choice between companies and their balance sheets or people, and they chose the companies, they chose the banks. They got it wrong. We're going to make it right. Am I right?
Yeah!
That is the choice. We're going to rewrite the rules of the 21st century economy to work for you all. I will say this to the people here in Iowa. You should have higher standards for yourselves. You have the power to shape the future of this country. What are you going to use it for? If it's not working for you, it's not working. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Just say, I'm going to make this work for me and my family. I'm going to make it so that my children do not feel like they have to leave this community or this state for greener pastures. I'm going to make it so that my stores are opening, not closing. I'm going to make it so that my grandmother and my mother can retire with dignity. These are the things that are facing not just the people here in Iowa, the people around the country. And you alone can change it. They're the only ones. There is no other Iowa. If you don't take this opportunity, we get 4 more years of the stores closing, the robot trucks getting closer to the highways. It started on your farms, then it went to your factories. It's why Trump won the state by 8 points. You all lost 40,000 manufacturing jobs. And I've been to those towns. Those towns have not recovered. And they went from blue to red. Now it's heading to your main streets, and eventually it's going to wind up on your highways. I was at Iowa 80. How many of you have been to Iowa 80?
Yeah!
Yeah, they have a mean buffet. It's a really good value. Right? You beeline right to the buffet and be like, this is a great value. 5,000 people stop there every single day. How many people are going to stop there when the trucks drive themselves?
1,000.
A lot less than 5,000. Driving a truck is the most common job in 29 states, and my friends in Silicon Valley are building trucks that can drive themselves. What's that going to mean for the people, not just who drive the trucks for a living, but the 7 million Americans who work at the Iowa 80s of the country, the truck stops and hotels and diners that rely upon the trucker stopping and having a meal?
We're screwed.
It is up to you, Iowa, to turn the tide. It's up to you to be the wave that helps rewrite the rules of the 21st century economy to work for our people. That's why it's a thrill to be here, because of the power in this room. Donald Trump's our president in part because he got some of the problems right. He said in 2016 he was going to make America great again, and then what did Hillary Clinton say in response?
It's already
It's already
great.
great. After that, it's been a long 3 years. That was not the right response. We have to acknowledge the depth and the reality and the severity of the problems, but we need a real set of solutions that will help move the country forward. Donald Trump's solutions, what were they?
Garbage.
We're gonna build a wall, we're going to turn the clock back, we're going to bring the old jobs back. We all know here in this room that we have to turn the clock forward. We have to accelerate our economy and society as quickly as possible. We have to evolve in the way we think about work and value. And the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
Make America think harder!
That's right. We're going to call attention to the real problems on the ground that are making us miserable, and we're going to solve them. That is your job. That is your power. That is your obligation. You have to make it so that we can look our kids in the eyes and tell them and mean it. Your country loves you. Your country values you. And you are going to be all right. Are you with me, Iowa? You are going to help rewrite the rules for us all, and I love you for it. So I have a fundamental choice right now, and I think I know what the answer is going to be. I was told I had a choice between talking and selfies. And I said, I think that they're going to prefer selfies with a little bit of small talk during the selfie. So let me know, is that right?
Yeah!
Alright, so let's head in that direction and let's make history together. In 2020, let's let the rest of the country know it's not left, it's not right, it's forward!
There are a bunch of converted people here. They know the line. Excuse me, I want to get past.
At the Capitol appearance for Yang, there was a table set up with t-shirts, hats, other paraphernalia, and I asked the person how much it cost. She said it doesn't cost anything if you'll volunteer. I'm honest, I wasn't going to volunteer for Yang, so I didn't take anything. In the Grinnell office, as I was standing in the hall, I was next to woman and her husband, and she ducked into an office and came back with 2 hats. Her husband didn't want his hat, but I said I did want it, and she gave it to me. And so here is an Andrew Yang hat. I love the math logo. On the back it says Yang 2020, and there's a little American flag. I'm very glad Andrew Yang is in the race, and I'm very glad I got to see him. So no, I'm not a Yang supporter, but yes, I will take his swag. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this political content, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.